The blizzard had clawed at Harper Lane's truck for the last 6 miles. Her wipers dragged across the windshield, smearing sleet into pale streaks. The sign for Eagle Peak Lookout, established 1933, loomed through the snow, its wood so weathered it looked like bone. She could hardly believe she had bought this forgotten place, for $50 no less, off a government auction site that most people thought was defunct. Harper parked, stepping into knee-deep drifts. Her boots crunched on the brittle snow crust, the wind biting at her face. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The tower rose ahead. 4 wooden legs braced against the mountainside, a square cabin perched 50 feet above. The metal stairway shimmered with ice. "Guess this is home now," she murmured, her breath a silver cloud. 3 months ago, she had been in Portland, nursing coffee through endless nights after her father's death. He'd been a park ranger his whole life, his journals full of mountain stories, the wild his only church. When she found the government listing for Eagle Peak, it had felt like fate whispering. The tower had once served as a fire lookout, but had been abandoned since 1978 after an avalanche nearly buried it. She didn't tell anyone she'd bought it. The world below felt noisy, meaningless. Up here, there was silence. Climbing the icy steps was like scaling the skeleton of a dream. Each creak echoed into the white air. At the top, she shoved open the cabin door, its hinges groaning as frost cracked from the frame. Inside, 1 cot, a rusted stove, a desk, and a wide wraparound window that opened onto miles of untouched wilderness. Every surface glittered with a crust of ice. Harper set her duffel down and exhaled slowly. "You're mine now," she whispered. "Let's thaw you out." She lit a small propane heater and unrolled her sleeping bag. As the air warmed slightly, she noticed something strange. The floorboards near the far corner bulged upward, covered in a thick, uneven layer of frost. She knelt and ran her gloved hand across it. The ice was smooth, unnaturally smooth, like glass. Beneath it, faintly, something dark glinted. Curiosity prickled. She fetched her hatchet and began chipping away. The ice splintered with sharp cracks, shards flying. After a few minutes, she froze. Under the final layer of ice lay a human hand, pale, preserved, fingers curled around a small brass locket. Her heart slammed into her ribs. She stumbled backward, staring in disbelief. Oh my God! It wasn't just a remnant, it was a person, someone who had died, entombed in the ice beneath her new home. For a long moment she couldn't breathe. The wind outside howled, rattling the windows, as if the mountain itself had woken. She crouched again, staring at the hand. The ice around it shimmered faintly, refracting the beam of her flashlight. And then she saw movement. Not from the hand itself, but from the reflection inside the ice, a faint shimmer like water rippling, impossible in sub-zero cold. Harper's voice trembled. "What are you?" The locket caught the light. She brushed away frost and opened it with the tip of her knife. Inside, behind the glass, was a photograph of a woman wearing a ranger jacket and a young boy beside her. On the back was engraved, "To Emily, for watching over me, J." Her father's name was James Lane. The heater flickered. Harper's pulse quickened. That couldn't be. Her father had never spoken of anyone named Emily, never mentioned Eagle Peak either. A sharp cracking sound came from beneath the floorboards, then another. The ice fissured, spreading like veins under her boots. Panicked, she grabbed her pack and stumbled toward the door, but before she could reach it, the old tower swayed, groaning under the weight of the storm. A gust of wind hurled snow against the windows. The lamp blew out. The last thing Harper saw before darkness fell was the glint of the frozen hand, and the faintest twitch in the fingers, as if they had moved. The storm didn't stop until dawn. Harper Lane awoke to silence broken only by the groan of the tower's timbers shifting in the cold. Her breath fogged in front of her face. Her sleeping bag was rimed with frost. For a long while she lay staring at the corner where she had found the hand. The heater had gone out hours ago, and everything in the lookout shimmered under a thin crust of ice again. She sat up slowly, half convinced it had been a nightmare. But when she turned her flashlight toward the floorboards, there it was, the cracked section of ice, the faint outline of a body still visible beneath, and the locket. It lay where she had dropped it, frozen to the wood. Harper's throat tightened. Her father's name, the boy in the photo, the ranger named Emily. The rational part of her brain screamed, "This is a police matter." But the cell tower in this region had long been dead. The nearest ranger station was 20 miles down an unplowed road, miles she'd never survive without snow tires and chains. So she was alone for now. She forced herself to move. Coffee, warmth, logic. She brewed instant coffee on the propane stove and pulled out her father's old field journal, the one she always kept with her since his death. He had filled it with sketches of wildlife, coordinates, and personal notes. She flipped through until something caught her eye near the back. June 14th, 1978. Eagle Peak sector closed due to avalanche risk. Emily still missing. Search team withdrew. J.L. Harper's chest tightened. Her father had been here, decades before she was born. She traced the entry with her finger, feeling the paper tremble. "Emily," she whispered, staring at the name. Could the woman under the ice be her? A memory surfaced, her father once telling her, "Mountains don't bury secrets, Harper. They keep them cold until you're ready to face them." Now she wondered if he meant it literally. The daylight came pale and weak through the frost-covered windows. Harper found a crowbar and pried at the warped floorboards, her hands shaking. The ice resisted, but she kept at it until the layers began to flake away. Bit by bit, the frozen form took shape. A woman in an old ranger uniform, her face turned toward the floor, her braids stiff with ice crystals. There was something peaceful about her expression. Eyes closed, lips faintly curved, as if she had fallen asleep decades ago and never woken. Harper whispered, "Emily." The name hung in the air, and the tower creaked in response, a sound that made her spine tighten. She brushed away frost from the jacket's badge. It read, E. Ward, U.S. Forest Service. Ward. That name clicked somewhere in Harper's memory. She dug through her pack and pulled out the yellowed property records she'd printed when she bought the tower. There it was, Eagle Peak Lookout, built 1933, maintained by E. Ward until 1978, officially abandoned after avalanche. It was her. Harper felt the room tilt slightly. Emily Ward had been trapped here when the avalanche hit and somehow preserved all these years untouched. But why hadn't she been found? The tower had remained standing. The logs mentioned no recovery. Unless someone hadn't wanted her found. Harper climbed down the icy stairs for the first time since the storm cleared. The snow around the tower glittered under a weak sun. Beyond the ridge, the mountains rolled in layers of white and silver. She scanned for signs of a collapse or buried wreckage. Nothing but endless snow. Then she saw footprints. Not hers. Larger, booted, partially filled with fresh snow, leading away from the tower towards the forest line. Her stomach dropped. Someone had been here recently. She followed a few yards before the trail vanished in drifts. Wind picked up, carrying a faint sound through the trees, something like distant humming. It wasn't birdsong. It was a low, tuneless murmur that seemed to echo off the cliffs. Harper froze, scanning the tree line. "Hello?" she called out. The sound stopped instantly. Only silence answered. She backed towards the tower, unease crawling down her neck. Every instinct told her she wasn't alone out here. Inside again, she tried to steady her breathing. The heater flickered to life, throwing a shaky glow on the frost-covered windows. Harper sat at the desk, staring at the frozen woman. "What were you doing here, Emily Ward? And what did my dad have to do with you?" She reached for the locket again. The photo inside had fogged, but she could still make out the boy's eyes, bright, familiar. Her father as a child, she was sure of it now. If Emily Ward was his colleague, she might have been more. The inscription, "For watching over me," suddenly felt heavy with meaning. Her heart twisted. Were you protecting him? As if an answer, a faint crackle came from the radio on the desk, an ancient two-way set covered in dust. She froze. The power switch had been off for decades. Then a burst of static. "Eagle Peak. Repeat, Eagle Peak. Respond." She lunged for the radio, twisting knobs. "Hello, this is Harper Lane. I'm at Eagle Peak Lookout. Who is this?" Static swallowed the response, but a voice broke through. A woman. "Emily?" Harper whispered, barely able to breathe. The shadow didn't answer, but the locket on the floor began to swing gently, as if stirred by unseen wind. Outside, far below the mountain, a deep rumble echoed, like snow shifting on a buried slope. The mountain groaned again, and Harper realized the danger wasn't just what she'd found in the ice. Something else had been waiting for it to be found. Harper Lane couldn't sleep that night. The tower creaked under the weight of the wind, and each groan felt like breath, long and drawn through invisible lungs. She sat cross-legged beside the heater, her eyes fixed on the melting patch of ice. Emily Ward's hand was now fully visible, the skin still unnervingly intact, the brass locket lying just inches away. Every now and then, droplets of water fell from the ice to the floorboards with slow, rhythmic taps, like the ticking of a clock, marking the unraveling of something buried too long. Harper wrapped her coat tighter. "You told me to leave," she whispered toward the silent radio. "Why?" No response, only the distant moan of the wind outside. She couldn't shake the voice she had heard earlier, soft, echoing, unmistakably calling her name. Her rational mind said it was just a remnant signal, an interference, maybe her imagination playing tricks after days of isolation. But another part of her, the one that had driven her to the mountains in the first place, knew better. It had felt personal. At first light, Harper began searching. The radio logs, the old manuals, anything that could explain how the tower had been connected to her father or to Emily Ward. She pried open the lower drawers of the desk, pulling out stacks of brittle maps and water-damaged ledgers. Most were dated between 1950 and 1978, each meticulously labeled with Ranger shift notes. One notebook caught her attention, its cover scorched, its pages stained with mold. On the inside flap was a name written in faded blue ink, E. Ward. She turned to the first page. October 3rd, 1977, new snowfall earlier than expected. Avalanche patrol due next week. JL assigned to South Ridge route. Good kid, quiet, focused. Reminds me of myself 10 years ago. Harper's heart raced. Her father, James Lane, was right there in the logs, working with Emily. October 14th, JL found unusual readings near crevasse line. Magnetic spikes. Could be equipment malfunction. He says it felt like the mountain was humming. November 2nd, weather worsening. HQ warned of structural instability in the tower. I told them I'll stay another season. Someone has to monitor this slope. JL promised to bring up extra rations before winter closes the pass. December 9th, the ice on the ridge is moving. I can hear it at night. Cracking. Like something alive. The entry stopped abruptly. Harper closed the book, her pulse thundering. Her father had been here during the final days before the avalanche. He had never told her, never mentioned any of this. She turned toward the frozen figure on the floor. "You were here when it happened," she said quietly. "Did he leave you behind?" As if answering, the radio sputtered again, just a faint whisper, a static, then a click, like someone tapping on the frequency. Harper lunged toward it, twisting the dial. Harper? The voice came again, muffled, distant. Emily? Harper whispered. Emily Ward? You shouldn't have come here. It's not safe here. What's not safe? The static thickened, then cleared just enough for 5 haunting words. It's waking beneath the ice. The transmission cut off. Harper stared at the dead radio. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the frosted window, pale and ghost-like. It's waking, she repeated under her breath. What did that mean? She needed to know if anyone else had recorded this region's seismic history. Maybe the waking referred to underground tremors or gas pockets forming under the old avalanche line. She rummaged through the equipment storage under the cot and found a box of yellowed geological maps. Some were marked with colored pencil lines, fault lines, runoff paths, and hazard zones. Then she noticed one mark, unlike the others. A red X, drawn at the base of the mountain, right below where the tower stood. Next to it was a handwritten note in the margin. Glacier Hollow. Cavern beneath foundation. Unstable. Her breath caught. Beneath the tower? That would explain the hollow sounds she sometimes heard when she walked across the floor. A cavern might have formed under decades of frost and thaw. But then something else clicked. The hand. The preserved body. The strange warmth emanating near the ice. What if the glacier below wasn't entirely frozen? What if something had been trapped deeper inside? A chill ran through her. By late afternoon, she decided to descend the tower again. The sky was lead gray, and the air carried the sharp scent of an approaching storm. Harper strapped on her snowshoes, shouldered her pack, and followed the slope behind the tower, tracing the mountain's edge where the ice met the rock wall. A few hundred feet down, she found what looked like an old service path, barely visible beneath the snow. It led to a cluster of collapsed wooden posts and a half-buried doorframe, like the entrance to a mine shaft. The sign above it had rotted away, but she could just make out faded letters. Authorized personnel only. Firewatch substation. Her flashlight beam cut through the gloom as she pried open the warped door. Inside was a narrow tunnel descending into the mountain, the walls sheathed in ice. Old electrical cables dangled like vines. Every sound she made echoed back a second too late, as if something deep within the mountain was repeating her. Halfway down, she found another relic, a rusted metal locker, its door hanging open. Inside were rations, rope, and a weatherproof recorder labeled Ward, Personal. Her heart skipped. She pressed the playback button. The machine wheezed, the tape warbling, as a woman's voice filled the narrow passage. Testing, 1-2. Emily Ward, Eagle Peak Substation, December 9th. Avalanche risk code red. Tower foundation compromised. Noise continues from beneath ice hollow. Not seismic. Repeating pulse. Frequency irregular. Almost like breathing. A long pause. Then her voice again, quieter. James doesn't believe me. Says it's just the wind echoing in the crevice. But the wind doesn't feel like this. When it moves, it vibrates the metal, like it's trying to speak. A hiss of static. Then one final note. If we don't make it, whoever finds this, tell him I kept my promise. The recorder clicked off. Harper's knees went weak. You kept your promise to my dad, she whispered. She leaned against the icy wall, the cold burning through her gloves. The air felt heavier now, humming faintly, like the sound of distant thunder buried under miles of rock. The same pulse Emily described.
It wasn't her imagination. She could feel it through the ground, vibrating up through her boots. Harper backed away from the tunnel mouth, staring into the blackness below. For the first time since arriving, the mountain felt alive. Not majestic, not serene, but aware. She turned to leave, but as she climbed back toward daylight, her radio crackled again in her pack. She froze, hand shaking as she unzipped it and pulled the handset free. Harper?" came the faint voice again. "Emily? Don't break the ice. It's the only thing holding it." The message dissolved into static, replaced by a low rumble that grew deeper and closer until the ground trembled beneath her feet. Snow fell from the ledges above, the echo like distant thunder, rolling up through the spine of the mountain. She sprinted toward the tower, her breath ragged, each step sinking into drifts. By the time she reached the stairs, the vibration had stopped, but something new had appeared. The ice beneath the tower had cracked wider, a deep blue fissure running straight through the floor. From within that fissure, faint light shimmered, soft, pulsating like something breathing slowly in the dark. Harper stood frozen, staring down at the glow beneath Emily Ward's body. The woman in the ice was no longer still. Her hand had shifted slightly, fingers now uncurling toward the light below. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The fissure widened overnight. By morning, Harper Lane could see her own reflection rippling in the ice as faint light pulsed beneath it.
Emily stayed behind when the avalanche came. She said it wasn't nature. It was something alive in the glacier, something older than us. She thought she could contain it. I left to get help. The mountain fell before I returned. Harper stared at the words until her eyes blurred. Her father had tried to save her, but hadn't made it back in time. Now, nearly 50 years later, the ice that had held whatever Emily sealed was melting. By noon, the hum beneath the tower had grown stronger. The old structure trembled now and then, its windows vibrating faintly in their frames. Harper's coffee mug jittered across the desk as if from an unseen tremor. She needed to see what lay below. Harper gathered her climbing harness, a headlamp, and rope, gear she'd used years ago while training in Oregon's backcountry. She strapped a flashlight to her belt, double-checked the knots, and approached the fissure. The crack was wide enough now to slip through, though cold air poured from it in rhythmic gusts like the exhalations of some sleeping thing. "This is insane," she whispered, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. She looped the rope around one of the tower's steel beams, secured her harness, and began her descent. The beam of her light cut through the narrow shaft, illuminating walls of glacial ice that glowed faintly blue. Frost clung to her eyelashes as she rappelled deeper, the sound of dripping water echoing around her. The deeper she went, the more she could feel the hum vibrating in her ribs. After 20 feet, her boots touched uneven ground. She turned slowly, her breath fogging. The cavern stretched out before her like a frozen cathedral, arches of translucent ice rising overhead, their surfaces alive with refracted light. And at the center of it all was the source of the glow. A massive block of ice, half buried in the floor, pulsating faintly with inner light, pale gold, like sunlight seen through water. Embedded within it was something metallic, round and strangely intricate, an object that looked impossibly man-made, though ancient. It wasn't rock. It wasn't natural. Harper approached slowly, her boots crunching on frost. The air buzzed faintly around the object, distorting the light. Her flashlight flickered as if struggling to stay on. "What are you?" she whispered. At first it resembled a large sphere, about the size of a small car, covered in geometric etchings that shimmered when her light hit them. Tiny rivulets of melted ice ran down its surface, vanishing into cracks in the floor. And in its center, faintly visible beneath the translucent shell, something pulsed, slow and steady, like a heart. The hum grew louder. Harper reached out, then stopped. A faint voice, barely audible, whispered through the cavern. It wasn't coming from the radio. It was inside her head. Soft, feminine, and familiar. "Don't touch it, Harper." She spun around. The voice had been Emily's. She knew it instantly. Her headlamp beam landed on something behind her. Movement in the shadows. For a heartbeat, she saw the outline of a woman standing in the dim light, wearing a ranger's coat, frost glittering on her hair. Her breath caught. "Emily?" The figure didn't answer, only lifted a hand as though to warn her away. Then she vanished, dissolving into mist that drifted up toward the fissure. Harper turned back to the glowing sphere, her pulse thundering. She noticed now that the ice around it wasn't solid. It was webbed with fractures, thin veins of water glinting like veins of light. Inside the sphere, the pulsing grew faster. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Seal it. The ice must hold." Whatever this thing was, Emily had trapped it, and now the thawing was undoing her work. A sudden crack split the air. Harper jumped back as a sheet of ice fell from the ceiling and shattered beside her. The entire cavern shuddered. A column of snow collapsed into the fissure above, showering her in frozen dust. She scrambled toward the rope, fumbling for her radio. "This is Harper Lane at Eagle Peak. If anyone can hear me, there's seismic activity near the lookout. Repeat, the mountain is unstable." Static roared in her ear. Then, "Harper." Emily's voice again. "You can't let it surface. Promise me." "I don't understand. What is it?" Harper shouted into the static. "It not from this place. It listens. Don't speak its name." The transmission ended abruptly. And then, silence. For a moment, Harper stood frozen, staring at the glowing core through the fog of her breath. She felt an irrational urge to reach out, to know. The sphere seemed to pulse in response, the patterns on its surface shifting like living veins. She forced herself to back away, clipping onto the rope. "Not today," she muttered, climbing fast as tremors shook the walls. As she neared the top of the fissure, she looked down one last time, and her heart froze. The sphere had cracked. Light spilled out like liquid gold, coursing through the ice in tendrils. Each pulse made the hum stronger, resonating up through the tower above. By the time Harper hauled herself back into the lookout, the air inside vibrated with invisible energy. The frost on the windows melted in streams. Emily's body was gone. Only a hollow impression in the ice remained. And on the wall, scrawled in melting frost, were words that hadn't been there before. "It knows you're here." By dawn, the temperature had risen nearly 10 degrees. That shouldn't have been possible at this altitude, not with snow still clinging to the peaks. Yet inside the lookout, the frost had melted completely. Drops of water ran down the glass like tears. Harper Lane sat at the desk, staring at the hollow where Emily Ward's body had been. The locket still lay there, glinting in the half-light. It hadn't melted, hadn't shifted. Only Emily was gone, vanished as if the mountain had reclaimed her. And the message she had left behind, "It knows you're here," shimmered faintly across the fogged window. She swallowed hard. "Knows," she murmured. "How could it know?" Then she remembered Emily's final words on the radio. "It listens." The hum from below hadn't stopped. If anything, it was louder now, a deep, resonant vibration that she could feel in her bones. When she moved, her heartbeat seemed to sync with it, pulsing in rhythm with the faint golden light beneath the fissure. Harper checked her equipment. The radio was dead again, the batteries drained. The lantern flickered like it was losing power too. Even her wristwatch had frozen at 3:07 a.m., the same minute she'd last heard Emily's voice. She pulled her father's field journal closer and turned to a blank page. "Observation log," she muttered, forcing herself to focus. January 18. Unidentified seismic event continuing for 24 hours. Temperature increasing inside tower. No further visual of Emily Ward's remains. Her pen trembled, ink smearing across the page. Auditory hallucinations likely, but if this is what Emily and Dad experienced, then it's not hallucination.
It's communication. She looked toward the floor, where light pulsed faintly through the cracks. Whatever it is, it's awake now, she thought, and it's trying to reach me. By mid-morning, the wind outside had died completely. The mountain was silent. Too silent. Even the ravens that normally circled the cliffs were gone. Harper wrapped herself in a parka and stepped onto the observation deck. The snowfield stretched endlessly below, gleaming like glass. She expected to hear the distant creak of ice settling, the groan of the tower beams. But there was only the faint thrum of the mountain itself, that endless low vibration. Then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The snow wasn't still. All across the slope, tiny ripples moved through it, like water stirred by wind. The whole mountain seemed to breathe. Harper backed toward the door, her pulse racing. "No," she whispered. But when she turned back inside, her father's journal lay open again, though she was sure she had closed it. The pages fluttered slightly, as if caught in a phantom draft, and new words were scrawled across the last entry. Words that hadn't been there before. "You shouldn't have come alone." Harper froze. The handwriting was identical to her father's. "No," she whispered, "you're dead." The heater hissed, its flame sputtering. The air grew heavy again, and somewhere deep below the tower she heard a sound. Not a hum this time, but a voice. Faint, layered, thousands of overlapping whispers, impossible to understand, but unmistakably human. Harper pressed her hands over her ears. "Stop," she whispered, eyes squeezed shut. But the voices grew louder. They seemed to echo through the very structure of the tower, through the walls, the metal bolts, even the air. Then one voice rose above the others, sharp and clear. "Seal it!" Harper's eyes flew open. Her father's voice. She stumbled backward, knocking over the chair. "Dad!" she shouted into the emptiness. No response. Only the hum returned, stronger now, pulsing through the floor like a living heartbeat. She fell to her knees, trembling. "What do you want?" she cried. The light below flickered, dimmed, then pulsed twice, like an answer. For hours, Harper sat in silence, staring at the fissure. She couldn't leave. The storm that had been building all morning now screamed outside, snow hammering the glass in blinding sheets. The radio was dead, the heater flickering low. So she did the only thing she could. She listened. At first there was only the hum. Then came faint patterns, like rhythm, like speech, but too slow.
The hum spiked to a deafening pitch. The glass panes rattled violently. Harper clamped her hands over her ears and fell to the floor, screaming as the sound drilled into her skull. Through the pain, she heard words, clear, resonant, inside her head. "We remember you," she gasped. "Who are you?" No answer, only a flood of images. Not memories, not dreams, but visions. A world of ice stretching endless and dark, where something vast moved beneath the surface. Shapes that looked alive but wrong. Ancient, wrapped in light. A woman, Emily, standing over the fissure, pressing her hands into the ice as the mountain roared around her. Then her father beside her, shouting words Harper couldn't hear. The light swallowed them both. And suddenly, the vision broke. Harper was back in the tower, the heater dead, the air filled with fog that smelled faintly metallic. Her flashlight rolled across the floor. She could barely breathe. The hum had stopped. For a heartbeat, the silence was absolute. Then came a slow, deliberate creak from the door leading to the stairs. Someone, or something, was climbing. Harper grabbed the hatchet she'd used to chip the ice days earlier and crouched near the fissure, her heart hammering. The wooden stairs groaned under unseen weight. Snow drifted through the cracks in the doorframe. Then came a sound, soft, almost gentle. A woman's voice. "Harper, it's all right. You need to come with me." Emily. Harper's grip tightened on the hatchet. "You're dead," she said, voice shaking. Not anymore. The door eased open. Emily Ward stood there, her parka rimed with frost, her braids stiffed with ice crystals. But her eyes, they glowed faintly gold, like the light beneath the mountain. "You woke it," Emily said quietly. "Now you have to help me put it back to sleep." Harper took a step back. "What is it?" Emily shook her head. "Not what. Who?" She lifted her hand toward the floor, toward the fissure still pulsing weakly. "It's been waiting for someone who could hear it again, someone who carries the same blood." Harper's mind reeled. "My father?" Emily nodded slowly. "James was the first, you're the second, and this time, we don't get to run." Outside, thunder cracked over the mountains, a sound that didn't belong in winter. The entire lookout shuddered. The ice beneath them split further, light spilling out in molten gold. And deep below, something answered. The world outside the lookout had gone white. Snow poured down in thick sheets, the kind that erased the horizon, the kind that silenced everything. Inside, Harper Lane could hear only the slow, steady hum pulsing through the floorboards. It wasn't loud anymore. It was deliberate, rhythmic, alive. Emily Ward stood at the broken door, her breath misting the cold air. Frost clung to her eyelashes, and her skin glowed faintly with that same golden hue Harper had seen beneath the fissure. Harper raised the hatchet slightly. "Stay back." Emily's voice came low and calm. "You don't need that. If it wanted to hurt you, Harper, it would have already." "Then what does it want?" Emily's eyes flickered, as if reflecting some light only she could see. "To wake, to remember. You've heard it, haven't you?" Harper hesitated. "Heard what?" Emily stepped closer. "The voices, the warmth, the rhythm beneath the ice. It's calling for you now the same way it called for your father." Harper shook her head violently. "No, my father was a geologist, not whatever this is. He didn't believe in—" She stopped. She remembered his field notes, the strange drawings, the recorded vibrations no machine could decode. Emily gave a faint, sad smile. "He believed more than you know. He found it. He tried to seal it again, but he wasn't strong enough." The hum deepened, the floor trembled beneath them, snow sifted down from the rafters. "Seal what?" Harper demanded. Emily turned toward the fissure. The glow had returned, brighter than before, like veins of molten gold pulsing under the ice. "It's not a thing. It's a being, a memory buried in the mountain. They called it the listener, and now it's waking because of you." The way below. Before Harper could protest, Emily crouched beside the fissure and brushed away the loose snow with her gloved hands. The light flared briefly, and the edges of the crack widened like a mouth opening. Harper stepped back. "What are you doing?" Emily looked up, her golden eyes calm and hollow. "Showing you the way your father went, the path he used to reach it." There was a sound, a deep, organic creak, as though the mountain itself was breathing. The floor split slightly wider, and beneath the wooden planks, Harper saw what looked like a stairwell descending into light. "That wasn't there before," she whispered. "It's always been here. Your father built over it. He thought he could bury the truth." The air filled with a low, resonant tone, vibrating through Harper's teeth. Her chest felt tight, her pulse sinking to the rhythm beneath the ice. "This isn't real," she murmured. Emily extended her hand. "Come and see. You've already heard it. Now you have to listen back." Harper hesitated for a long moment. Then she looked at her father's old journal still lying on the desk. The last line burned into her mind. "You shouldn't have come alone." Maybe this was what he meant. She took Emily's hand. The wood gave way under them, and the two women descended into the light. The heart of the mountain. The stairwell was carved from ice,
but not like any natural formation Harper had ever seen. The walls shimmered with layers of translucent crystal that shifted color as they moved. Within the ice, faint silhouettes glimmered, faces, perhaps, or memories, moving like reflections underwater. As they descended, Harper could feel her father's voice echoing faintly in her head. Not words exactly, but presence. "You came here with him, didn't you?" Harper asked softly. Emily's voice echoed, layered by the acoustics of the tunnel. "Years ago, he wanted to study it. I wanted to understand it. We failed both ways." "Why?" Emily turned briefly, her eyes filled with that golden light again. "Because we thought it was separate. But it's not. It's part of the mountain. And now it's part of you." The tunnel curved, and suddenly the passage opened into an immense cavern. Harper stopped dead. The chamber stretched further than her light could reach. Its walls pulsed faintly, like a living heart. In the center, rising from the frozen floor, was a massive column of gold-veined ice. Inside that column, just visible through the translucent layers, something shifted. Something with the vague shape of a human. Harper's breath caught. "Oh my God." Emily stepped forward. "This is where he tried to seal it. Your father thought freezing it again would stop the listening. But the mountain remembers everything that's ever touched it." Harper stared at the figure in the ice. Its outline was faint, long limbs, curved spine, but unmistakably alive. "It's still moving." Emily nodded. "It's waking, and it remembers your voice." The voice that answered. The hum intensified until the air itself trembled. Harper dropped to one knee, clutching her ears. The vibrations weren't sound anymore. They were inside her. Memories, not her own, flashed through her mind. Storms, avalanches, people digging, screaming, running. Then a voice, her father's, cut through the noise. "Harper, seal it before it learns your name." She gasped. "Dad?" The voice faded, replaced by another deeper tone, ancient, resonant, curious. "Harper." The syllables rolled like thunder through the cavern. Emily reached for her, gripping her arm tightly. "Don't answer it." Harper's vision blurred. The golden light filled everything, pouring from the ice column like liquid fire. The figure inside was no longer still. It pressed against the frozen barrier, cracks spiderwebbing outward. Emily's voice was urgent now. "It's testing you. You have to resist. Your father used his blood to bind it. That's why it remembers him." Harper's heart pounded. "Then how do we stop it?" Emily closed her eyes. "By finishing what he started." She pointed toward the fissure in the center of the cavern, a black pit surrounded by runes carved into the ice. The symbols pulsed faintly with light. "That's the seal. You have to give it back what it took from him." Harper shook her head. "What do you mean, give it back?" Emily looked sorrowful. "You'll know when it asks."
The hum became a roar. Cracks spread across the chamber walls, showering shards of ice. The figure within the column moved again, pressing one hand outward, so clearly human now that Harper felt bile rise in her throat. "Emily, it's going to break free!" Emily didn't move. "Then listen carefully. When it speaks again, don't answer with words. Answer with what you are. It only understands emotion, memory, feeling." Harper stared at her, terrified. "What does that even mean?" Before Emily could reply, the ice exploded. A blinding wave of light burst through the cavern, slamming Harper backward. The ground heaved. She heard the sound of 1,000 voices whispering all at once. Then, silence. The light faded. The air was thick and still. In the center of the cavern, the figure now stood free.
It was human in outline, but made entirely of translucent gold, its skin flowing like molten light. Its face was unreadable, shifting between forms, male, female, old, young. When it spoke, its voice was both inside and outside her skull. "You carry his memory." Harper trembled. "My father." "He silenced us, buried us in ice. But you listen." Harper could feel the hum returning, synchronized with her heartbeat. The creature tilted its head. "Do you hear it, child of Lane, the mountain's heart? Will you help it breathe again?" Emily shouted, "Harper, no!" But Harper's thoughts had already gone distant. The sound, the pulse, the warmth, it filled her completely, erasing fear. Her father's voice echoed faintly in the distance, fading under the hum. "Seal it before it learns your name." But it was too late, because as she stared into that golden light, the being whispered softly, "Harper Lane." The chamber shook, the light flared, and the seal beneath their feet began to crack open. The mountain groaned like a wounded animal. Ice split in a deafening roar, and a surge of wind blasted through the cavern, nearly knocking Harper off her feet. The being, golden and radiant, its edges shifting like heat haze, stood before her. When it spoke, its voice came from every direction, vibrating through the walls and into her bones. Harper Lane. Her own name rolled like thunder. The sound of it didn't just echo, it stayed, rippling through the air like an invisible current that wouldn't fade. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice breaking. "That's not my name for you to use." The creature tilted its head, its form flickering between faces, sometimes her father's, sometimes Emily's, sometimes something else entirely. "Then speak mine," it said. "I don't know your name." "You do." It stepped closer, the ice hissing and melting under its bare feet. The cavern's light pulsed with its heartbeat. "Your father heard it before me," Harper said, trembling. "He tried to seal you away. He thought you were dangerous." The being's voice softened, now almost human. "He feared what he couldn't understand. He silenced the voice that shaped the mountains. He mistook listening for hunger." Behind her, Emily staggered forward, clutching her chest as if something unseen was pulling her downward. "Don't listen to it," she gasped. "That's how it starts. It speaks in what you love most." Harper looked at her desperately. "Then why did you stay here, Emily? Why didn't you destroy it?" Emily's eyes flickered gold. "Because I couldn't tell if it was evil or if it was lonely." The memory of fire. The being extended one luminous hand toward Harper. Inside its shifting body, she saw glimpses, scenes, memories that weren't hers. A forest burning beneath snow, a lake freezing mid-wave, people kneeling at the base of Eagle Peak thousands of years ago, their hands raised to a light in the sky. Harper stumbled back, horrified. "You were here before us, before the mountains had names." The creature's voice was almost mournful now. "We shaped the cold to sleep, but when you came, you took our quiet. You cut into our hearts and built towers above them. You woke the ice that remembers." Harper's throat was dry. "I don't want to hurt you. I just want to understand." "Then listen," it said. And in that instant, the cavern vanished. She stood instead in her childhood home, her father's cabin.
The radio hummed on the desk, and she could smell coffee, pine resin, and the faint ozone before a storm. Her father sat beside the fire, writing in his journal. When he looked up, his eyes were golden. "Harper, you're repeating my mistake." She shook her head. "This isn't real." He smiled sadly. "It's memory, the listener's way of showing truth." "You trapped it," she whispered. "I begged it to stop. It wouldn't. So I sealed the voice inside the glacier. But now," he hesitated, looking toward the window where snow fell endlessly, "it wants to breathe again, and it's using you to do it." Harper's voice trembled. "How do I stop it?" Her father rose slowly. The golden light from outside poured in through the cracks of the cabin walls. "Every bond requires a name. It took mine when I spoke to it. That's why I could never leave this mountain." He looked at her with sorrow. "Don't let it take yours completely." Then the world dissolved, back into the light. Harper gasped as the cavern reappeared around her. The listener loomed close, its light so bright she could barely see. Emily was kneeling nearby, shaking violently. The fissure in the floor had widened into a glowing chasm that breathed out heat and frost in alternating bursts. "Do you understand now?" the listener asked. Harper swallowed hard. "I do." "You took him from me. He gave himself so you could come back to me." The listener's voice was gentle, almost loving, and that frightened her most of all. Emily forced herself to stand, gripping Harper's arm. "He didn't give himself. It consumed him. That's how it binds to memory. It feeds on the ones who remember its voice." The listener turned toward Emily. "You are only echo. You were never meant to stay." Emily screamed as light burst from her chest. Her form flickered, breaking apart into ribbons of gold and white that drifted into the air like smoke. Emily reached for her, but her hands passed through nothing. Emily's fading voice whispered, "Seal it, Harper, before it learns to speak through you." Then she was gone. The cavern was silent, except for the hum of the mountain's heart. Harper was alone. The offer. The listener stepped closer. Its light softened until it resembled a person again. Her father's height, her father's face, his voice now layered with others. "You can silence me again, Harper Lane. You can bury this truth and walk away, but you've already felt what I am." It placed a hand over her heart. The warmth spread through her chest like sunlight through ice. "Every life that passes through this mountain leaves its echo in me. Yours is beautiful, bright, resilient, curious. I don't want to end that." Harper trembled. "Then what do you want?" "To remember the world through you." It extended its other hand. "Let me listen through your memories. Show me your warmth, your time, your light. In return, I will keep you alive when the mountain falls." Her mind spun. "And if I refuse?" The being's face flickered again. "Then I go hungry, and I will take what remains, your voice, your face, your name, until nothing living remembers you existed." The fissure rumbled. The tower above groaned. The mountain's heart was cracking open. Harper's pulse raced. "I can't survive in your world." "Then bring the world here." The being's voice filled her skull, its tone both terrible and tender. "You could be the bridge, Harper Lane, the last of your kind to listen." Her father's last warning screamed in her memory, "Seal it before it learns your name." But it already knew. The cavern walls shuddered, gold light poured from the cracks, and the air itself began to shimmer. Harper dropped to her knees, tears freezing on her cheeks. "If I let you in, will you stop the mountain from falling?" The being knelt before her, its golden eyes filled with something that might have been sorrow. Yes. For a long moment, Harper didn't move. She could feel her father's presence somewhere deep within the light, and Emily's faint echo crying out from the ice. Ethan's eyes flashed gold for an instant before returning to normal. He stared at her, dazed, then collapsed against the wall. Harper dropped to her knees beside him, shaking. "Please, don't, please." The fire dimmed, the hum subsiding. Ethan's breathing steadied. He was alive, but different. His pulse synced with the faint rhythm still echoing in her chest. He hears the song now. You've shared it. Harper pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. "Oh God, what have I done?" The listener's voice, calm and infinite, replied, "You've begun." When Harper Lane woke, the fire had burned to embers, and the mountain was utterly still. Ethan Vance sat across from her, head bowed, breathing slow and steady. Snow drifted through the broken roof in faint golden flakes that vanished before touching the floor. For one blissful second, she thought she dreamed it all. The listener, the voices, the impossible thaw. But then Ethan stirred and hummed. A soft, low vibration, perfectly in rhythm with the pulse that now lived inside her. Harper's blood turned cold. "Stop!" He blinked at her, confused. "What? I was just—" "Don't hum," she snapped, standing abruptly. The sound echoed longer than it should have, curling around the cabin walls like an echo that wouldn't die. Ethan rubbed his temples. "I keep hearing it, like a song under the ice. You hear it too, don't you?" "He's listening, Harper." The voice rolled through her thoughts like a wave. "Get out of my head," she hissed. Ethan froze. "What? Not you. She pressed both hands against her temples. "It's talking again." Ethan rose slowly. "Whatever it is, we'll get you help when we get down the mountain." Harper laughed bitterly. "There is no getting down anymore." She gestured toward the doorway. "Look outside." He did, and frowned. "It's just snow." The valley below looked normal to him. To Harper, it shimmered. Beneath the surface, she could see the golden veins running through the earth like arteries. She could feel them beating with her own pulse. "You're seeing clearly now." "Shut up," she whispered. "You brought him into the current. He carries your echo now. It can spread." Her stomach twisted. "You mean I infected him?" "You shared breath, connection." Ethan turned back to her. "Harper, are you sick? You look pale." She forced a shaky smile. "I'm fine. We should start moving." The descent. They set out before sunrise. The air was warmer now, unnaturally so for midwinter. Snow slid from the trees in slow, heavy sheets. Every step Harper took seemed to stir faint vibrations through the ground. Ethan tried the radio again as they descended. "Command, this is Vance. Still with Survivor Harper Lane. We're heading down Eagle Peak. Repeat, Heading down. Static. Then, faintly, through the crackling. Copy, Vance. You're inside the zone. Ethan frowned. Zone? What zone? Containment. Order. Stay put until... The signal cut off. Harper stopped walking. Containment? Ethan glanced at her. I don't like the sound of that either. They trudged on. Around noon, the sky shifted color, from pale blue to something burnished, like sunlight diffused through amber glass. Harper could taste metal on her tongue. She didn't realize she'd started humming until Ethan looked sharply at her. Harper. She clamped her hand over her mouth. I didn't mean to. He stared at her, uneasy. It's the same tone I keep hearing in my dreams. He's remembering you. Shut up, Harper hissed. Harper what? She spun, clutching her head. It's still in me. You can't separate what has merged. I'm not your vessel, she screamed aloud. The mountainside echoed her voice back, too perfectly, like it wanted to be heard. Ethan caught her shoulders. Hey, look at me. We'll get it out. Whatever's happening, we'll find a way. His words steadied her, but beneath them she felt it, the faint tremor through his hands, the rhythm. It was spreading. The people below. By the third day, they reached the lower tree line. Smoke rose in the distance, campfires maybe. Harper's relief was short-lived. As they approached, she saw tents, generators, equipment emblazoned with FEMA logos. Military personnel moved among them. Rescue base, Ethan said with a smile. We made it. But Harper's skin crawled. Something was wrong. The air was too quiet. When they emerged from the trees, a soldier spotted them. Hands where we can see them. Ethan complied instantly. We're survivors. She's... The soldier's eyes flicked towards Harper, and his expression faltered. Step back from her, sir. Ethan froze. What? The man's radio crackled. Command, we have visual on subject Alpha. Repeat, Alpha confirmed. Containment protocol? Harper's heart dropped. Subject what? Before Ethan could protest, armed personnel surrounded them. One aimed a scanner that emitted a faint hum. When it passed over Harper, the device pulsed gold. Containment positive, the operator said. It's in resonance. Ethan moved in front of her instinctively. She's human. She needs medical help. The lead officer, a woman in a frostbitten coat, lowered her rifle slightly. She's not only human, Mr. Vance. Not anymore. Harper trembled. You knew about this. The woman nodded grimly. Your father reported it before he disappeared. We've been monitoring the site for years. The ice core readings started changing the day you arrived. Ethan's jaw tightened. So you knew something was alive up there? The woman's gaze was unreadable. Alive isn't the word I'd use. She fears what she doesn't hear, the listener murmured, winced. Stop it! The officer noticed her reaction. It's talking, isn't it? Harper didn't answer. Then you know what we have to do. The woman raised her hand, signaling her team. Sedate her. Ethan stepped forward. Wait, there has to be another way. The woman's tone hardened. If that thing reaches more people, it won't stop. It transmits through resonance, through memory, sound, emotion. If she speaks to anyone, it could spread globally. Harper's vision blurred. She could feel the mountain now, its awareness, vast and patient, stretching for miles. They're afraid of listening. You could teach them.
She whispered through clenched teeth, "I don't want this." "Then let go." The hum inside her deepened. The snow around her boots began to melt, revealing veins of golden water winding outward from where she stood. The soldiers backed away in fear. "Containment breach! She's resonating!" Ethan grabbed Harper's hand. "Run!" They sprinted toward the forest as gunfire echoed behind them. None of the bullets hit. Every sound, every vibration bent away from her, swallowed by the hum that had become her heartbeat. The world begins to hear. They didn't stop until nightfall. The snow around them glowed faintly gold under the moonlight. Ethan collapsed beside her, gasping. "What do we do now?" he whispered. Harper stared up at the stars. They pulsed faintly, as though syncing with her rhythm. "We keep moving." He hesitated. "To where?" She turned to look at him. In her eyes, he saw something both human and endless. "The mountain isn't trying to destroy, it's trying to connect. We've just forgotten how to listen." He shook his head slowly. "And if you're wrong—" She looked toward the horizon, where faint golden light shimmered through the clouds. "Then the world will remember what silence really means." "The song is spreading, Harper Lane. They're listening." For the first time, she didn't fight the voice. She closed her eyes and listened back.
Miles away, in cities still asleep, radios flickered on by themselves. The same low hum filled the airwaves. Birds froze mid-flight. Rivers paused their flow for a heartbeat. And across the continent, anyone who whispered Harper Lane's name heard a faint answer echo back. "I hear you." The listener was no longer in the mountain. It was everywhere she had been, in everyone she had touched. The world was beginning to hum. The sky over Eagle Peak no longer looked like sky. It shimmered with faint veins of gold, like cracks in the firmament where light bled through. Snow melted upward, vapor turning into ribbons that curled back toward the clouds. Harper Lane stood at the center of it all, half woman, half resonance, her breath forming no fog, her heartbeat echoing with the pulse of the earth itself. Ethan Vance crouched beside her, exhausted, face pale under the otherworldly light. "Harper," he whispered, "they'll find us again soon. The army, the scientists, whoever's left. You can't keep running." She nodded faintly. "I'm not running anymore." Her voice was strange now, soft but layered, carrying an undertone like the distant hum of wind through rock. He reached for her hand. It was warm, too warm. "What are you planning?" She turned her gaze toward the horizon, where the mountain range rolled like the back of a sleeping giant. "It's awake now, Ethan. It's listening. It doesn't want to destroy us. It wants to remember what we forgot." Ethan frowned. "What's that?" "Belonging," she said simply. The voice inside. The listener spoke again, not in words this time, but through vibration, a harmony that pulsed through her bones. "We were once one, flesh and frost, breath and stone. You woke us, Harper Lane. Now choose how to end the separation." Her knees buckled. The golden light flared brighter. Memories flooded her, her father's journals, the picture of Emily and the boy, the words engraved in the locket, "For watching over me." She finally understood. Emily wasn't just a ranger. She was part of this. She found it before they buried the truth. Ethan steadied her. "What are you saying?"
She tried to bond with it, but she was alone. She died before she could finish the bridge. Bridge? She turned to him, eyes glowing faintly gold. Between us and it. Between human and earth. Between listening and being heard. Ethan shook his head. That's madness, Harper. You'll lose yourself. A faint, sorrowful smile touched her lips. Maybe that's the point. The world below. Far below the mountain, chaos rippled through civilization. Emergency broadcasts filled every frequency, all overridden by the same harmonic tone. A tone no one could trace, yet everyone could feel. Rivers pulsed to the rhythm. Glass vibrated in city towers. People woke in the middle of the night, hearts pounding in sync with something vast and unseen. Some called it infection. Others called it a revelation. In laboratories, scientists recorded impossible data. Temperature inversions, gravity anomalies, synchronized cardiac patterns across entire continents. And at the center of every reading, Eagle Peak. The ascent. Harper climbed higher, following a sound only she could hear. The summit loomed above, glowing faintly beneath the fractured sky. Ethan followed, though every instinct screamed for him to turn back. "Harper, you'll die up there!" he shouted against the rising wind. She smiled softly. "No, Ethan. I'll become what I was always meant to be." The air around her shimmered like heat haze, though the temperature had dropped below freezing. When she stepped, the ice didn't crack, it sang. Each footprint resonated like a bell tone, echoing through the air until the whole mountain seemed to hum with her. He reached for her wrist, desperate. "Please, there's still a choice. We can stop this. We can go home." She turned to him, tears glinting gold. "I am home." The wind screamed as they reached the ridge. The broken lookout tower stood below, half buried in glowing frost. Beyond it, a fissure split the peak wide open, spilling light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Step through," the listener whispered. "Finish the bridge." The final resonance. Harper faced the fissure. Every vibration in the mountain converged toward her chest. Her heart raced, not with fear, but recognition. She turned back to Ethan one last time. "You told me once that nature doesn't care. You were wrong. It remembers everything." He reached for her again, but she pressed the locket, the one that started all this, into his hand. Inside, the photo had changed. Emily and the boy were still there, but now there was a third figure between them. Her. "Keep it," she whispered, "so you remember what it means to listen." He shook his head, tears streaking his face. "Harper, please." But she was already stepping forward. The golden fissure flared, swallowing her silhouette in a halo of molten light. For a heartbeat, the world held still. Then the mountain exhaled. The silence that followed. Ethan woke hours, or maybe days later, lying on the frozen ridge. The fissure was gone. The tower below stood whole again, untouched by fire or storm. The sky was clear blue. But something had changed. The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was full, alive, threaded with faint harmonies. He descended slowly, holding the locket tight. At the base of the mountain, the FEMA camp was abandoned, covered in frost that shimmered gold when the sun hit it. When he spoke her name aloud, Harper Lane, the wind answered, gentle and warm. "I hear you." He smiled through his tears. "You did it, didn't you? You saved us."
The wind rustled through the trees. Beneath the snow, golden roots pulsed faintly, weaving through the soil toward the horizon. Months later, reports came from every continent. Forests grew back in days. Rivers that had run dry began to sing with new currents. Storms softened mid-air, as if the sky itself had learned compassion. And everywhere, mountaintops, coastlines, deserts, people claimed to hear the same whisper when they stood still long enough. You are not separate. You are part of the song. Ethan became a quiet man, tending to a restored fire tower at Eagle Peak. He never spoke publicly about what happened, but every night he'd climb to the roof, open the locket, and whisper into the wind. Good night, Harper. Sometimes the air would shimmer, and a faint voice, familiar, endless, would answer back. Good night, listener. Then the mountain would hum again, steady as a heartbeat. Hers, his, and the earth's, forever one. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. It would mean a lot.